Test 1, 2, 3.
I can hear you, sir.
Thank you very much. Just making sure.
You're very welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Martin.
You're welcome.
Now for the executive session, are you going to send me a different link? Or what are we going to do?
I know Mr. Perez will make a different link for the executive session.
Okay,
I'll
and
ask,
so I'll have to go to
I'll ask Lorraine how,
Laguna Woman.
probably, ma'am. Mr. Garcia?
Yes, sir, Dr. Martin.
Is some of your students only have their first names, so is Sylvia the one who's speaking tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else, sir?
No, I think it's just Sylvia is going to speak.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
Dr. Martin,
Yes, sir.
can you hear us okay?
Loud and clear, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Jones. You on?
Yes, I'm on. I was muted. And Happy New Year. Can you all hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir.
Great.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I'm here. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Year.
Yeah.
Do it by Zoom? Is it?
Mr. Ortiz, I'm here.
Okay, it's 5:30. Let's go ahead and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Roll call.
Dr. Byron Shambo,
Here,
Emily Hunt Daly,
Here. Here.
Richard Jones,
Present.
Lisa Lundstrom. Here. Don Ortiz.
Here. Okay, swearing in board members, we got Mr. Johnny Valdez to do the swearing in.
Um,
Am I correct?
Yes. So I would like to, if I could, Mr. President, just first of all, start with the big congratulations to Ms. Lundstrom, welcome to the school board, and also a big congratulations to the two school board members who have sustained their seat with the GCCS school board. It's an exciting time. I wish everybody happy New Year, and look forward to being productive this coming year. So we're gonna do some swearing in, and also I believe that Ms. Lundstrom would like to say a few words as well
Yes, please.
after we get this swearing in done. If that's so much that'll work.
That'll work.
Okay. So with that,
Well, I don't know how we want to do this, but first of all, I want to say hello to Mr. Ashambo, a good friend of mine. Haven't seen you in a long time, sir. I don't know if you can see me or not, but.
if you move over here, we probably could.
Oh, so
Yeah,
how do this?
You see.
Yeah,
We
Mr.
can-
Valdez, Judge Valdez, it's an honor to have known you then, and it's also a pleasure to know you now.
Absolutely, sir. It's good to see you. You look young as ever.
Outside, inside, not so much.
Well, I understand absolutely. And Ms. Sandoval had asked me, there's probably was getting nervous that I hadn't answered her call. I was on vacation. And when I finally got back to work, I could hear that sigh of relief. That I would be here. And certainly glad to be able to participate in this and to be able to swear in you, a new school board member and the remainder that have been here. And so I'm not real sure how we want to do this, if we want to.
Maybe if you step up here.
Well, I think that everybody can
can
probably
you
see.
see?
If I got in the way, you just stand and then.
And we have one,
Miss
Miss Emily Hunt Daly is the third board
He's
member.
standing.
Okay,
Miss Daly?
And
she's
then
right here.
They raise their hands.
Let me take this off. There
Good
she is, right
evening.
here.
There you are. What I think I'll do is I'll just face this way.
That's
and
fine.
You guys will do
Yeah,
the same thing, so I'm facing Ms. Hunt, Lady Hunt.
Okay.
And then if you'll raise your right hand and listen to. I'm far enough away from everybody. I don't know if you feel comfortable with me taking this off, or if you'd like to leave it on,
I think it's fine to take it out there in the.
so that there's no interruptions or you can hear what I'm saying.
Yes.
So first, before we start, I'd like to congratulate each of you for your elections, first of all, and wish you all the luck. Ms. Hunt Daly, I've also been on the school board prior, and so I know what each of you are going through. And so today is what I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to go over your oath of office, and I'll have you raise your right hand, which you have. And each of you will repeat after me. If you would, I'm going to read, I'll say I, and you say your name. I
Ronald Ortiz.
Emily Hunt Daly.
do solemnly
Emily Hunt
swear
Daly.
Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the
the
United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
Constitution and laws
of the state of New Mexico,
of the state of New Mexico,
of the state of New Mexico,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will
and that I
faithfully
will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of
of the office
of the office
the office
of the school board member
as school board
of
member
school board member
on which I am about to enter
on which I am about to enter
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
help me God.
Congratulations and congratulations to
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Doyen.
This, David, I'll have this.
Yes.
to sign, here. The sample, I will sign it, and I'm gonna have a place for you to sign it underneath, okay?
Okay, that'd be fine. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming to give us, to allow us to swear in. This is my third term, so it's always good to hear the oath over again.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Doyen.
There's a pen. There we go. You got blue here.
Board President Ortiz, I would encourage the other board members who are newly installed to consider making a few comments too.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea, Dr. Guy. We'll go ahead and do that too.
Share the comments, if that's okay.
Please, you're welcome to stay, Judge.
Okay. All right. Hi. Yes, I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to everyone who supported me and who were able to vote for me. I am excited to be on the school board, and I will do the best I can to advocate for and represent the parents, students, educators, and all of the stakeholders in the school district. The number one question that I will ask myself before I make a decision on the school board is, what is the best for our kids? We are all facing tough issues and do not always agree with each other, but we can agree on one thing, that our kids and our students are our top priority. With God's guidance, I hope to help unify the school district, parents, educators, administrators, so that we can grow stronger together. For the parents listening, thank you for your involvement in your child's academics, and continue to stay involved. We have the most important role to raise our kids to be successful and respectful adults. Please reach out to me if you have any concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lundstrom.
Thank you.
Any other board member want to make some comments? Ms. Daly?
Okay, let me unmute myself. I appreciate the earnestness of Ms. Lundstrom, and I think we can all agree that our children across the Grants District are utmost importance for us. And being an educator, Ms. Lundstrom, I know you understand how difficult sometimes the educational process is for our students and our parents, and I appreciate your earnestness in saying that and pledging that as part of your role as board member. But as I reiterated before, this is my third term, and I've seen a lot of things change, and sometimes for the good, sometimes not so for the good. But I think as a board, we can work together. And thank you for all of you that took the opportunity to go out and vote. It's really important. You don't know that that is our voice, and we need to utilize that voice always. And I look forward to a good next quarter, and let's see what we can accomplish this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. I just want to thank everyone also for your support and your confidence during the election. One thing that I started with 4 years ago is that I will always advocate for our students and for our parents. I also want our teachers and our staff to know that we are in total support of everything that you do for our students. And I know that the school board members that we have now will and always will advocate for our students. And again, thank you for your support. Anybody else? Okay. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on to reorganization of the board. And I will now take some nominations for school board president. Is there any nominees?
This is Emily Hunt Daly. I nominate Dr. Guy Archambault for board president.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Daly. Any other nominees? I'll go ahead and ask one more time before we move forward. Is there any other nominees before we move forward? Okay, if not, roll call, Ms. Sandoval.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes. Yes.
Richard Jones,
Yes.
Aye.
Teresa Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes. Okay, school board president, Mr. Guy Archambault, you want to take it over from here?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I've also been on the board for, this is my second term. And I do find it very humbling and challenging at many times. And I will continue to work for the school district, for all stakeholders, and will seek to ensure that we have a good working relationship amongst all board members, and that we continue to ask questions, to provide recommendations, to seek input from our stakeholder groups, convey that to them, and to ensure that our administration is carrying out the policies of the school board, and also the statutes and regulations that we all are to abide by. And I thank you very much. It's very, very appreciated. We will now continue on with the rest of the officers of the school board. We now will entertain nominations for the vice president of the school board. At this time, I'd like to nominate Emily Hunt Daly as the vice president. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, let us move toward the vote on this candidate. Would you please call the roll and indicate your vote on that?
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes. Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Teresa Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Let's move on to this position of secretary. I entertain any names in nomination for the position of secretary.
President Archambault, I'd like to nominate Alicia Lundstrom. It's a good way to get her feet wet.
Any other nominations? Seeing none. Let's indicate our position on that, and please call the roll. Indicates yes or no.
Dr. Barashambo,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes, yes,
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Board members, I think we all extend ourselves a sense of appreciation for selecting our new officers for this coming period of time. And let's move ahead with our agenda and demonstrate to the public that we are capable of making decisions that are going to be in the best interest of the district and the stakeholders. The adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
Mr. President, I recommend that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes.
Can we put board comments back on the agenda? I don't know why we've taken them off there, but I'd sure like to see them back on the agenda, especially on the ones where we have presentations and such.
And the rationale for doing so, Mr. Jones?
I'd like to hear the comments from the board. If we have a presentation from a school or a recognition, that's when we give our comments, is during board comments. I mean, they were on there for a long time. We've just taken them off there the last 2 or 3 months, and I'm just asking if we can put board comments back on the agenda.
Are we not able to make our comments at the time of the items that are presented? Such as
Not always.
presentations or questions or answers? Let me give it some consideration and we'll talk about that. Adoption of agenda as is.
I'll move to approve the agenda tonight.
Emily Hunt Daly, I second. I second.
Dr. Barashambo,
Aye.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes, I.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Aye.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Adoption of minutes. Let us entertain a motion for adoption of the minutes, December 7th, 2021.
Mr. President, I do recommend approval of the minutes of December 7th.
2021. Is there a motion?
Emily Hunt Daly, I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Motion has been made by Emily Hunt Daly and seconded by Ron Ortiz to approve the adoption of the minutes of December 7th, 2021. All those in favor say aye. Wait a minute, roll call vote.
Aye.
Excuse me. Roll call vote.
Dr. Barashambo,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Richard Jones,
yes,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Aye.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
As a little reminder, board members, let's make sure we review those minutes. And if there are any addition, when you do review those minutes and you see that there's some corrections or some concerns, please contact the office so that they'll know if there's any issue, so that we can incorporate those into anything. Otherwise, we do permit you to point out anything that may be it may need to be corrected at the night of the meeting, such as this time. Thank you. Let's go on to 6 recognitions. Mr. Perez, Superintendent Perez.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, board members, and everybody here this evening. It's always a great honor to present to you accomplishments, especially by our students. You all are probably aware at this time that the Laguna Acoma High School girls volleyball team made it to the finals and won the state championship. We intended to bring them to the board in December, but because of some scheduling conflicts, and I think the athletic schedule is pretty full, we weren't able to do it until this evening. But I do, anytime we have successes, it's always nice to let the board know, let the public know that we're proud of our students and their accomplishments and successes. So with that, do we have anybody here from Laguna Acoma High School that can say a few words?
Yes, we have Miss Sylvia Goodman.
Yes. Good evening, Superintendent. This is Monica Sanchez from Laguna
Good evening.
Acoma. We have 9 of our 12 players here. We also have our head coach Esther Lorenzo and our assistant coach Daniel Garcia. Sylvia Gedman is going to speak, who's one of the captains, a junior captain, and Coach Esther Lorenzo, who's the head coach, will speak.
Thank you.
Monica, would you be able to have us view all of you guys there?
Yes, we're all in different areas due to them having to, some of them are
Oh, that's right.
at home,
Yep.
yes. But girls, turn on your video, please.
So we can see you. Don't be
They have
bashful.
their medals
There
on.
you go.
Yeah, they have their medals on, so.
What I'd like to, Miss
Beautiful sight.
Monica, would you have each one of them who are on to identify themselves, their names and their family and their parents?
Yes, sir, let's do that. So we'll start with Coach Esther Lorenzo and her daughter, and then we'll just move on, ladies, and you introduce yourself.
Hello, school board. My name is Esther Lorenzo. I'm the head coach for the Laguna Acoma volleyball team, and this is Kaylee Lorenzo.
Your parents?
Kaylee is my daughter,
Is the parent.
along with my husband, Daniel Lorenzo.
Fantastic. Next.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Nikki Chairs Posey, and I'm a junior at Laguna Acoma High School, and my parents are Bobby Chairs Posey and Tara Rubin.
Great. Next.
I'll go. My name's Bethany Mariano. I'm a junior, and my parents are Brandon Mariano and Lenora Carpio.
Yes, yeah.
Great. Next.
Hi, my name is Justina Brown, and I'm LaJesta Brown. And our parents are Matthew Brown and Adriana Munger.
Beautiful. Next.
Alea? Don't be shy, Alea.
Yeah, unmute.
You have to unmute.
And the other girls, you need to
There we
unmute.
go.
Hi, my name is Alea Hershey. I'm a senior at Laguna Acoma, and my parents are Katrina Riley and Alvin Hershey.
Hi, school board. My name is
Kate.
Sylvia Getman. I am a junior at Laguna Acoma. My parents are Bobby and Sheldon Lacario.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Villegas, and I'm a junior, and my parents are Sabrina Valencia and Terrence Villegas.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Poncho. I'm an 8th grader, and my parents are Faye Poncho and Alvin Poncho.
Great. Next.
Beth?
Coach Lorenzo, anybody else?
Kaylee Garcia.
Wait, sorry, I was thinking my mic. My name is Kaylee Garcia, I'm a junior, and my parents are Valentina Garcia and Tony also.
Didn't quite get the names of the parents, but congratulations, Kaylee, anyway.
I know mom is Valentina Garcia. I'm not sure her dad's name. And we have a few girls that couldn't be with us tonight. We have Jerry Day or Geraldine Day. And oh my gosh, Gianna Carrillo and Haley Kelsey. And Sophie, are you still on?
I saw her a while ago.
It looks like she may have got off, but we have Miss Sophia Lazos.
Okay. All right, Coach Lorenzo, would you like to say a few words? Tell us about this whole journey and what it means to these kids and to your school and to your parents, to the families.
So this journey has been exciting. It's my first year coaching high school volleyball, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to help these girls accomplish this. They put in the hard work, and this is the outcome. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the good attitudes that they had and the hard work that they put in.
Monica?
I apologize, my video isn't working. I don't
That's
know
okay.
why it's doing that, but our service isn't great out here where we on the reservation. But you know what, I'm grateful that Esther Lorenzo did take this position. She did come in as, oh, I'm ready to be an assistant coach, and we asked her to please get through this. We'll mentor her, you know, and the girls. I mean, we only have one senior graduating. Aaliyah Hershey has been a tremendous leader. She put in her 4 years of hard work and dedication. Everybody else is returning. Out of the 12 players, 11 are returning. So hopefully we have a good year. Who knows what the future will bring. But I do want to recognize the girls' accomplishments, not only on the court, but also in the classroom. Our girls were recognized for having a grade point average, a team grade point average of a 3.53. We have 3 girls on the team with a 4.1, several girls with a 3.7, many girls with a 3.4. So their success wasn't only in athletics based on their state championship, they were also successful in the classroom, which I think was a nice pathway to their success on the court, because we tell them you're a student first and then an athlete. So they all maintain great GPAs. They do have what you call a MTXE, and that's their motto for the last 5 years. It's mental toughness, extra effort. So everything they do is about mental toughness, extra effort in the classroom, extra effort in your community, extra effort in the classroom. And they are required to complete several hours of community service. They help with the pumpkin drive, with the tribes. They do a lot with COVID. They were restricted a little more, but they still showed up to help when they could for the drive-bys. So the girls aren't just athletes, they're well-rounded individuals. And so we thank everybody for their support. Emily Hunt Daly, all of the school board, Mr. Pettis, I mean, it's countless people, Jerry Nodal for transportation, understanding all of the times that we had to cancel, reschedule with just the unforeseen issues that happen, you know, with COVID and quarantine, but our girls got through it. They got through it successfully, and we appreciate everybody's support and understanding in the girls' accomplishments. They just didn't win it themselves. They were taught what to do, but it was because of everybody behind them of why they are successful. The coaches have a lot to do with it, but it's the teachers, the administration, the school board, I mean, you name it, everybody, our governors, Governor Bayo at Acoma and Governor Kawimi, they were very proactive in what the girls did and their success. So, I mean, I can name a whole bunch of people, but it wasn't just the girls alone, it was everybody behind them. And we just want to say thank you, Dawa is how we say it to show our thanks. And, you know, the support was tremendous. And so we're excited to present this with our girls, and we told them it's ongoing. They still act right, they still be mindful and respectful, and it never ends for them to be successful. But we have Sylvia Gedman, who's one of the team captains. And so I know she has a few things that she'd like to say, but thank you for welcoming our girls into the school board meeting and recognizing them. Everybody have a great night and a happy and blessed new year.
Sylvia, let's hear from you.
Good evening. My name is Sylvia Gedman. I am part of this last season volleyball championship, state championship. You know, it was a great experience. We've worked through it and through all the ups and downs, through everything, when we managed to pull through no matter what. We always thought that we could make it, and sure enough, this past season we did. You know, but like for most of the girls, you know, we say you don't feel like we won state. You don't feel like, you know, it's a whole accomplishment, but it is. But I think it's just a mindfulness in all of us, in our hearts, in our head, that you know, we don't need to be bragging across in life, because there's going to be a big you know, it's awesome. It's a great and wonderful feeling, and I'm glad to have won it with the girls, my sisters by my side through the whole season. And just like Coach Sanchez said, you know, we have a whole group of people that we have to thank, and who've stood by our side through all of it. You know, just thank all of them. And we just got to be mindful of of how we proceed with what we're doing now. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a outstanding accomplishment that all of us feel so happy that you had that experience of success and championship. Very remarkable. You are models for the younger girls. Emily, any other board members like to make some comments?
Yeah, Mr. President, I would.
Well, I would.
Mr. Jones.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's
I
good.
just want to tell those girls congratulations very much. What a great accomplishment, and having a great GPA like that and being student athletes, very proud of you and congratulations.
Emily, Ron, or
I would also like, Mr. President, I would also like to acknowledge the fact that, and Ms. Lorenzo failed to mention it, but she's homegrown. She graduated from Laguna Acoma High School. She played sports at Laguna Acoma High School. And it's always a dream to come back and teach or coach at the school we graduated from. So you made your mark in the world, Mrs. Lorenzo, and I hope you continue. And I think you young girls don't realize you've set history. You've made history for Laguna Acoma. This is going to be talked about by your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and further on, because you set a record. And I don't know what else you can do to top that. Academically, that's another record. Being an educator, I know how important it is to keep that GPA up, and it's time consuming, practice, studies, travel. Just like you, I don't know how many hours I spent on a bus, and I used to always marvel at my students, my athletes, when they would take their homework on the bus and read or discuss things. So you have set history, young ladies, and you should be very proud of that. And I just realized that some of you are probably my granddaughters. I know Esther's husband is one of my nephews. And so there's many of you that I'm probably related to. And so I share I can't tell you, I watched the stream. You could hear me screaming in the house and jumping up and down. And I wish I could have been there, but it's a momentous occasion, and I really appreciate and congratulate you for your accomplishment, and just keep on going. You don't know what else is there in the world for you. And so just keep on going and set your mark, and you'll make all of us proud. And like Dr. Ashambo said, you're a role model. You're a role model for all the little girls that look up to you. Miss Sylvia, I know I have to look up to you, but good luck in the future, and all your future endeavors. I hope that you accomplish them, and just keep on going forward. And doa and gume and brody shatsku. Thank
Board
you.
Member Lundstrom, Board Member Ortiz.
I'd just like to congratulate you all for your accomplishments, and I wish you success in the future, and never give up. Just keep going forward. Thank you again, and congratulations.
Yes, I want to say congratulations to all of you. And like Mr. Jones said, that is quite an accomplishment to be a student athlete with a GPA on the average of 3.5 for the team. So that's awesome. Keep up the good work.
Mr. Perez, Superintendent Perez.
Yes, sir. So I'd like to say is congratulations to you again, and Coach Lorenzo and team. On behalf of the school board and the Grand Cebolla County School District, when you get a chance, come by, and we have a plaque for you all to take with you. Just a token of our appreciation and pride in all the work that you do. Thank you.
Good job.
Very good.
Thank you, everyone, for the encouraging words and for the support.
You can view this later on with your parents. So by all means, make sure you find the website that can help you see this. This is great. Thank you. Mr. Perez, let's proceed on to the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, board members, and audience, the next recognition is for a gentleman that I've had the opportunity to work with for several years in the past. And Mr. Schuster is currently the Grand Cebolla County Schools Hearing Authority for the district. Has been working with us part-time for a couple of years now. And we felt it would be right and proper that we have somebody that we're connected with this way to also honor his accomplishments. Proud to present the fact that Mr. Schuster was recently named into the New Mexico Activities Association Hall of Fame. And with that, I think everybody here knows, whoever's been affiliated with schools in New Mexico know that the New Mexico Activities Association is a governing body that is well respected by many, if not all, people that are involved in education and athletics and activities. It's a very reputable organization. And it is a very, as Ms. Hunt said, a momentous award to receive that kind of an honor. And just want you to know, Mr. Schuster, that well, the Grand Cebolla County Schools is also proud of you and honored to have you working with us and supporting our students and staff and administrators. So with that, we also have a plaque to show that we appreciate you and your accomplishments as well. So good for you, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pettis. That's very nice to be recognized. And I want to tell the board what a great job that you're doing as it relates to me being able to do my job for the schools. You got a great staff there. I've been very impressed with the professionalism of your principals and your assistant principals and the compassion that they show for young people. So once again, this is a great honor coming from you, a good friend. And I certainly appreciate it so much. And thank you for acknowledging that tonight. I thank you.
Well done. Any comments from the board? I think it's one of the unique challenges that we have in the school district to have you provide that service to us. It can be delicate and sometimes difficult, but I think with your level-headedness that we're able to accomplish what the tasks that are set forth before you. And I encourage you to continue to be as diligent as you have in the past and be as conscientious and sensitive to the needs of staff and students and parents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank you, Mr. Schuster. It's not often that NMAA does recognize outstanding individuals, and so you should know that's just a great honor. They don't just deal with just athletics; they also deal with outside the athletic world too. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other board members? That being the case, thank you very much, Mr. Schuster. Appreciate that, Mr. Board. Let's go down to the next item. Next thing on the agenda, that's citizens to address the board. Any citizens who wish to address the board are in the future can call the school district office. You also need to submit a request to Lorraine Sandoval and be sure that you get it in to us in time. Our practice has been to follow our policy that provides you individuals with some time, and ordinarily it's about 3 minutes per speaker. And if you have submitted that request to the office, I'm sure they will let us know right now. We discourage any personal attacks upon board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board. We want you to be careful and cautious about statements that you make regarding anyone else in the community. It's very important that we do this with respect, and we're sure that you will. Mr. President, Mr. Superintendent, are there any individuals who are seeking to address the board?
No, sir. There are no requests this evening.
Thank you very much. Let's proceed to executive session. Pursuant to section 1015-1H7 of the Open Meetings Act, the board will meet in executive session at this time to discuss a pending litigation of the Office of Civil Rights as it pertains to Special Education Department and pending lawsuit against a GCCS employee. And I entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Emily Hunt Daly, so moved.
I will second it.
Motion has been made by Emily Hunt Daly and seconded by Richard Jones that we go into executive session as I set forth to you tonight. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes, yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
The motion has passed unanimously. And we will go into executive session now at, what time is it over there? 6:17?
Yes.
Yes, so let's take about 5 minutes to make the change.
Okay,
We will, Mr. Pettis.
Yes, Mr. President, board members. So there is a link that's been sent to you. Well, I'll have to sign out of this meeting, sign into our executive session, and then we will sign back into this meeting at the conclusion of that.
Thank you. We are now going to go into executive session. Thank you. Let's.
Are we back? And I just can't hear anybody, or is not everybody back yet?
Okay, Mr. President, Mr. Jones, I think we're all here and we're ready.
Thank you. Let's, I need a motion to go back into open session again.
Emily Hunt Daly, so moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Garashambo,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
John Ortiz.
Yes.
All right, we've entered back into open session at 7:13 p.m. We have met to discuss the pending litigation of this Office of Civil Rights as it pertains to Special Education Department and a pending lawsuit against a GCS employee as required by our discussion was limited to only those items. Thank you. Presentations, Mr. Perez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board. Our first presentation is I was asked to do an overview of our GCS enhanced COVID protocols. And we presented this to the board, I believe it was September 29th or around that date, where the board we did present this to the board and it was reviewed and approved. So once again, I'd just like to give an overview, reminder, and keep the board abreast of where we're at with this. I do need to inform you also that many of you have heard through the news that the CDC has recently made some recommendations across the board. And that is landed, of course, in all states and in New Mexico. I called PED yesterday, and this is pending. So it's pending that right now the Department of Health is communicating with the Center for Disease Control, and the New Mexico Public Education Department is awaiting conversation with the New Mexico Department of Health in order to see if there needs to be changes in the PED toolkit. So the answer that I got was that yes, we'll probably be given more information this week, and there are likely to be some changes to the New Mexico PED toolkit that I was told that may be made available to us at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. So we're suspecting that maybe an adaptation to the number of days required to be quarantined. As you might have heard, the CDC just changed it from 10 days to 5 days. And of course, there's a lot of surrounding, that impacts a lot of it creates a lot more what ifs, what if you're vaccinated, what if you're not, so on and so forth. So we just wanted to start the year by being grounded with our, letting everybody know where we're at, just a brief overview of our current handbook that's already been approved. And then just so you know, we also have an action item in place in case that the board would choose to make any amendments to the current COVID protocols. The COVID response team that we've discussed a couple of things that we'll present to you that we believe need to be included, not anything major, but I think it would be good that you all are very clear where we're at with the details of this manual. So we will begin giving an overview. I've asked Mr. Lee to help guide us through this. And I believe Ms. Sonia Hernandez may be on as well to help with going through this or answering any questions you may have. And then I was also asked to have our attorney, Andy Sanchez, to give us at the conclusion of our or during the presentation of this, to inform the board about why we are following the requirements of the state and what may be the consequences if we do not follow the state health order. So with that, I'd like to just
Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir.
Board members, let's hold off on any questions until we get this completed. And I think that it's important that we hear it in its entirety. And then we'll give ourselves an opportunity to, if there's any questions that we have with respect to the updates that he's going to provide to us. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir. Okay, Mr. Lee, do you want to start us off and go from there?
Sure. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Pettis. The last time that we reviewed and had your approval of the enhanced COVID response protocols document was September 21st. And Dr. Archambault, you wanted to go through it thoroughly, so I'm going to try to be quick about it, though. Basically, we had a welcome back from Mr. Pettis and President at the time, Ron Ortiz.
Mr. Lee, just give us the essential elements that are the core of what it is that we consider to be the
yes
protocol.
Yes, sir. The protocol essentially that we're looking at, the last thing that you all approved was the mitigation efforts, and it's the 14-day rolling count, and it's a percentage of the number of people in a building versus the number of people that have COVID over a rolling 14-day period. From 1 to 2%, there's a set of, or from 0 to 2%, there's a set of mitigation efforts that we do in the building. From 2% up to 2%, we have another set of additional mitigations. That would be increased things such as hand washing, cafeteria assigned seating. At 3%, once a school site reaches 3%, then we work more heavily into the classroom, desk shields, some possible one-day remote learning for disinfecting. That's not required, but that leaves us the option to do so. At 4%, it's even more restrictive. 2 days possible closure, and we try to keep all the staff away from each other, although they're working in the same building. And then once the school reaches 5%, then there's the option of closing the school facility for up to 10 days. So that's the last thing that you all revised and updated and approved. As far as the basics of it, it's really some guidelines and some protocols of what we do throughout the day, every day at school. You wear masks indoors. We have a mask requirement that we're going to talk to you about it regarding outdoors. That's going to be a recommendation to the board. We talk about COVID safe practices, what's available for students, whether it's just disposable masks, hand sanitizer, whatnot. We talk about how the protocols are in effect for transportation, and it's pretty thorough. That has not changed. Has not changed since the beginning. We talk also within the protocol is it's a basic statement about athletics, but it's basically following the COVID safe guidelines for participation in athletics from the New Mexico Activities Association. There's guidance for employees, what they do if they have symptoms. It talks about unvaccinated versus vaccinated. This is all coming from the toolkit, and so a lot of this language is directly from there. What's available to all employees, such as free vaccination, PPE. What's not available, we've talked about that in the past, working from home remote, and that's something that hasn't changed in over a year. For those working directly with students, we give them some guidance about social distancing and if vaccinated, teachers may remove the mask while actively speaking and teaching. We talk about maintaining social distance, maintaining distance, and then the additional safety measures that we make with regards to the facility itself, air filtration, regular disinfection by the custodial staff, designating our entrance and exit, and so forth. So those are just the things that basic protocols and procedures that we expect in the building. This is a flow, not a chart, but a flow of what to do in case of illness or potential exposure. Once again, from the toolkit, it's guidance from the New Mexico PED. We talk about cultural and linguistic responsiveness, the CLRE framework, and special needs students, what we do with for all students, and then healthcare considerations for kids with individual education plans, and how we deal with 504 plans as well. The health and safety of the care plan, just the expectations and general hygiene, which is extremely important, probably one of the most important things that a person can do for themselves. The health and safety plan, we go into a little more detail about the equipment we use and how we use it, and the expectations that we have for custodians and other maintenance staff when we do have a facility or an area of a facility that has been contaminated, and just what we do in that instance. That has not changed for quite some time, since the beginning of the document. We do need to revise the athletics plan because Laguna Acima has changed a little bit, and so there'll be just some procedural stuff, but that's basically the document. Are there any questions right now, or do I need to go back and explain anything else?
You at the end of your portion of the presentation?
I'm at the end of just the brief overview. What I am going to talk about are two items that we are presenting to you for your discussion amongst the board and approval or not. One is on page.
So, Mr. Lee,
Yeah.
I would like, if the board doesn't have any immediate questions, I would like to present those two amendments or additions to the plan.
Sure.
Mr. President, are you ready for me to?
Yeah, I'd like to entertain Mr. Perez and Mr. Lee, who go back to that section regarding Laguna sports.
At the time, Laguna Acima High School was not allowed to participate for home games, but that's since changed, and so we probably need to have a statement in there, or remove it altogether and just not have a statement, one or the other.
Well, it needs to, Mr. Perez, you need to include all that needs to be revised tonight, so we'll know which ones.
Yes, sir.
So if you're going to address this specific one, that's your choice.
Yes. I would like to address 3 areas, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Okay, so number 1 is the test to stay was a most recent change by the state. And we need to include that in the plan. So test to stay is basically having the opportunity to test out of the 10-day quarantine. And the state has some specific guidance on that we'd like to include in here. So it gives opportunity, instead of the hard and fast 10 days out in quarantine, a person can test negative day 1, 3, and 5, and return to work or return to school. We'd like to ask the board if to approve that in the action item. And then the other area, we can answer some questions around these in a minute. The other areas right here where it's pointed out on every day at school where we had said the mask requirements may be adjusted outdoors properly at planned activities that are approved by the building principal. We believe it's in the best interest of all of us to just make that plain and simple. When you're indoors, you can wear a mask. When you're outdoors, you don't need to wear a mask. And part of the reason that we're proposing that is it hasn't been consistent across the board. There's different interpretations of this. Some sites are being very strict and other sites are being very loose. So I think it's probably good to just have it clear that when students are outdoors, out in playgrounds and that sort, just the masks are not required. Now, parents can still choose to have their students masked. It's just not required that they have to wear those masks. That would be one of the areas that another area that we want to bring attention to for amendment. And then the final area would be that Laguna Acoma High School update. Current status, I believe we don't need to make a statement on there. We can provide some information in that spot right there for current status of the Laguna's area, as far as any kind of restrictions that the Pueblo has for the people on the Pueblo. But for us, that is pretty much changed for now. So those are the 3 areas, Mr. President, that we want to bring forth and answer any questions. And that will be the 3 areas that we will ask the board to amend.
Thank you. Board members, if you have any questions, please ask them now.
Yes, I just have a question, and I guess it's clarification because the test to stay program, you meant if they test negative days 1, 3, and 5, they can stay in school. You said return to school. They can stay in school if they keep testing negative days 1, 3, and 5, so they don't have to miss any days of school if they keep testing negative.
No, the way that the state has set it up is this is when they're out on quarantine. So they're already out of school. But in order to get back in before the 10 days, if they test negative on day 1, day 3, and day 5, then they can return to school.
Oh, okay.
During that 10-day quarantine.
Oh, okay. I thought that was if a student was exposed or they don't know if they had COVID or not. If they were exposed to COVID from another student that they sat beside or whatever, if they test negative days 1, 3, and 5, they can stay in school.
Yeah. So that's a different set of
Oh,
protocols.
okay.
So this one is if they actually test positive.
Oh, I see.
You know, and
Okay,
then going
initially
forward.
test.
Yeah. And you want to help clarify that, Vance? I know that you read that today.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's on the screen right now, the COVID-19 test to stay protocols.
No.
Is that on there?
No.
No, we're seeing the Laguna Acmas. You may have to close this one and open up the next.
While he's doing that, Mr. Superintendent Pettis, have these been also sent to the EOC at the different tribes?
The EOC at Laguna Acoma and Acoma are aware of all of our processes and procedures here. And we have communicated it with both Pueblos and the Navajo Nation. We have not we have not talked about any kind of amendments or anything like that. We thought it'd be best to bring it to the board.
Okay. And then there was I don't know which one was up on the screen about there's the one in front of and top of it said they had to wear masks at all times. And then the one below it, you were discussing that indoors, they had to wear masks, outdoors, they didn't have to wear masks. And so they kind of contradict each other. So maybe just look at it to maybe reword it. And then if they're not going to wear masks outside, are they also going to adhere to 3 feet social distancing or 6 feet, whatever, how many feet it is?
Yes, ma'am. And Mr. President, there are, the only change there is to say that no masks are not required outdoors, but we will consistently throughout the protocols is ask that all safety measures are adhered to at all times to the best possible extent. And outdoors, indoors, we always want to be safety conscious and be socially distanced and in the most appropriate way.
Mr. Lee, would you read this because it's the
Sure. Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Pettis, I'll go ahead and read this test to stay protocol. It's actually a protocol within the NMAA guidelines, but it's also in the New Mexico PED COVID-19 response toolkit. Unvaccinated individuals in close contact with confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the school setting may participate in a test to stay program to avoid quarantine. This does not apply to close contact with confirmed cases of COVID-19 among household members. So if it's a household, then this test to stay does not apply. To participate in test to stay requires an individual to test negative on rapid COVID-19 tests on day 1, 3, and 5 following exposure. Day 0 is considered the day of exposure. Failure to test, regardless of the reason, when an individual is at school on a required testing day, terminates test to stay for the individual, and to return to quarantine at home for the duration of the quarantine period is required. If an individual has a close contact exposure while participating in a test to stay program, the testing sequence must be restarted. If an individual on test to stay exhibits COVID-19 symptoms requiring self-isolation, then modified quarantine is terminated and the individual must self-isolate at home pending confirmation of a negative test. Test to stay does not change self-isolation requirements for those who have tested positive for COVID-19. That's the same language in this document as it is in the toolkit. And what Mr. Pettis mentioned earlier, we are only asking to amend to put this language into our own district document.
Board members?
Okay, so it is the test to stay in school if they test negative. Is what
Yes, ma'am.
I'm understanding. So yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that can be added, amended.
Richard, you're next. Mr. Jones?
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ms. Longstream, at all. I
That's
thought
okay.
you were. A few things here. The consistency that we're moving on this is not at the same speed as we hear from the CDC. I mean, which there's very mixed signals there. Depends on what day you hear it. But I mean, I think we got to work more of a common sense scenario than, I mean, I
Go ahead.
I think we're not giving our kids the greatest opportunity to succeed here. If it goes from 10 days to 5 days, we need to change then. Not a month from then, not a week from then. If it has definitely gone from 6 feet to 3 feet. And this has changed daily. So my worry, I mean, it's hard for me to agree to any of it because I don't believe in any of it, but I understand we have to work with the PED, but I think we're behind I don't want to be so far behind that we're lessening opportunities for our students, if that makes any sense. I mean, the 10 to 5 days was a couple of weeks ago. The 6 feet to 3 feet was 3 months ago. I mean, I think we need to be quicker in response to this. Like I said, I do understand we have to follow the public education department, whether we like it or not, but I think we could keep up with the CDC guidelines a little bit quicker. That's where I'm gonna ask the board and you, Mr. Pettis, to, if there's a change, let's make the change with them. I mean, I don't think we need to adhere to things from a year ago or from 6 months ago. This is ever evolving, and we need to be as well.
Mr. President, Mr. Jones, just for clarification, that 6 feet to 3 feet was adhered to immediately as soon as we got the information on that, and it was included in our COVID response protocols. The other part is the CDC change from 10 days to 5 days. We're ready to go with it. We just do not have the authority, so to speak. I know that's a point of contention, but the state has not, the state is still, until we hear from them at the end of the week, is still on the 10-day until they have decided with the CDC and Department of Health that it's okay for us to go for it. We're ready to do it. And, but at this point, we don't necessarily have, if we did it today, we'd be breaking the PED guidelines.
I do understand that, and I'm not holding anybody's feet to the fire, but the 6 feet to 3 feet was months and months ago, and we have talked about it in this conversation.
Yes.
Saying I think we need to update as quick as we can. How's that?
Yes, sir.
Like I said, I'm not downing our protocols. I'm not downing, but I do think that as soon as we get the go ahead, if we have to make special meetings, let's have that, and let's get our kids, our students, the best shot they can. Is where I'm at where I'm going with this.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
What you're looking at here is the 3 foot distancing in the classroom. Now, this was approved, and we implemented this on September 21st with the 6 foot to the 3 foot. I just want to make that point of clarification.
Mr. Pettis, the test to stay, is that, oh, well, Mr. Lee, the test to stay, you referenced the New Mexico toolkit. When was that incorporated into the New Mexico toolkit?
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Pettis, that was implemented in the toolkit back last fall, probably around October, but it's not a requirement. It's actually going to become a state requirement that all schools provide this. It hasn't happened yet. They keep kicking the can down the road a little bit, but that has actually, it started in the NMAA so that kids could go back to practice and go back to competition. And then the New Mexico PED back in October started allowing that as a pilot program. And it's my understanding that there's one school district in the state that was part of their pilot that was seeing how feasible it was to do that and what issues would come from that. So this is kind of in the works right now. It's rather new, but it has been around as an idea since October or so.
Well, that's confusing, Mr. Lee. On the one hand, you're saying that it was, on the other hand, you're saying maybe it wasn't. And I think one of the things that Mr. Jones was saying is that if it is in there, then did the state say that along with the other mandates, did they consider that to be a mandate? Or was that even offered to these school districts as an option?
Mr. Archambault, so this is all evolving as we speak. The test to stay has been talked about, but right now they're asking districts to implement. What the problem that they're finding is not all districts and schools are prepared to have the amount of testing that's necessary available. Our district is set up. We have the testing. We have the health assistants trained at the school sites. The testing items, product necessary to provide the test is not widely available yet. Because there is those kinds of complications, the state has actually pushed it down. They were going to require us that we did it by January with some consequences if we didn't. And they have just now, I believe even today or yesterday, our health coordinator informed us that they have extended that because nobody's quite ready for it. So I'm pleased to let you know that we're ready to go with it. We just need the go ahead.
Mr. Lee, go back to that section about test to play. Now, Mr. Lee, is that the identical state description of protocols that the New Mexico toolkit describes?
That is, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Pettis, yes, this test to stay is a protocol that as I said, it was something that was generated out of the NMAA, but it has been adopted by the New Mexico PED as a part of the New Mexico PED COVID-19 response toolkit. So it is actually in the toolkit. It's just not a requirement by the PED with consequences yet. It will be probably by February is what's been indicated to Mr. Pettis and I.
Board members, any other questions? Then, Mr. Pettis, you are recommending that these highlighted descriptions of the test to state protocol is what you wish to have the board approve tonight.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the second one that you mentioned?
Before you move on, Mr. President, can I ask a question? Are you utilizing those rapid testing, and we have access to enough supplies to implement this test to stay if they're taking 3 tests in 1 week?
Yes, and that's what I'm suggesting that's in question is we have the training. Our health assistants are trained to do the test. There is question about the amount of supply to fully implement this at this time.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Pettis, with that response that you gave, are we actually ready to do this?
We are ready to go with this as long as the supply lasts. we can start tomorrow. And then once we run out of tests, then the activity will have to cease.
Okay, excuse me, board members, if it is an action item to be motioned and seconded, then we can have additional discussion, debate on whether we desire to do that. And following that discussion, then we can take a vote on it. So I just want to let you know that you still have an opportunity to weigh in on the merits of this chest to state protocols if that becomes a motion to approve. What was the second item you mentioned?
Yeah, the second item is the outdoor masks.
Go back to that statement in our toolkit.
Can you see it there?
Yes. What is the actual restatement that is desired?
Mr. President, I would like to, when we get to the motion, is ask the board to consider changing this to simply masks are not required while outdoors.
Unless, are there any unlesses?
Period.
Are not required. I hope that parents, the staff remember that it means are not required. Does not mean that you must insist on unmasking.
That's easily said in the way we word it. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. That the outdoor unmasking, or as not required outdoors, has been months prior to this, and now we're going to wait till our next meeting to make that the motion. So you understand what my concern there and what our lag is?
I hear what you're saying, Mr. Jones.
So do you know what, so you're going to, when we consider a motion, a board member will make a motion and will seek a second on a modification to this. At that time, we can also add any provisos if there's a need to do that. So are there any possible situations where mask may be of benefit to the student?
In the language and the simplicity, Dr. Archambault, just in the way we discussed it is, if we make a statement that masks are not required, then that does not mean that you can't wear a mask. If a person so chooses to wear a mask, they may. If a parent insists that their child wear a mask outdoors, that's still open for that. But we just, the proposal is not to make it a requirement.
But let's see where this goes. You've informed us of your desire. The board will then entertain motion, and at that time, if there's any amendments or additions to that, we can do so at that time, and also debate the merits of that. Was there a third?
Yes, and the third was the Laguna Acoma High School change, because things have evolved since we've made those statements on the plan.
Okay. Any comments on those? Any questions regarding this? If not, we have, Mr. Lee, you have presented the current protocol. And some people are probably consider the word protocol to be somewhat awkward to describe a health and safety program to prevent the to respond to the COVID illness that is affecting our students and families. You have mentioned key elements, and these are considered to be, from the district's point of view, mandates. What we need to have Mr. Sanchez, Andy Sanchez, do is to clarify for us the legal requirements that the district has in complying with regulations or guidelines. I'm not sure how you wish to say it, but there are supposed consequences anytime the district's efforts or activities do not meet the expectations of the Mexico Public Education Department. So if you could help us understand the legal implications of what it is that we do and don't do, it would be appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. Good evening and congratulations, Mr. Lundstrom, on being sworn in today. I have listened to your discussions with regards to this. I think I can appreciate where Mr. Jones is coming from. The real issue that limits this quick turnaround is that the state of New Mexico, its statutory authorities for the public health department, to make certain guidelines and certain public health orders are not actually dependent on what the CDC does or doesn't do. In other words, if it was as easy as we all follow the CDC, that would be a different. There have been times that the health department has departed from CDC guidelines, and therefore that's why that's happening with regards to that. To the board president's statement, there's probably going to be some issues when you guys do need to examine whether you are going to provide more protective mitigation measures than even the PED is requiring. You guys have that. You do have that ability. You don't have any ability to go below it, but you do have ability to go beyond it. With regards to like masks outdoors, there's going to have to be some examination, because if the new CDC guidelines, should they be adopted by the public health department and subsequently by the PED, is you can come back to school or you can come out of quarantine at 5 days, but then you have to wear a mask when you're within, if you're within 6 feet of anybody, that may affect your outdoor mask mitigation. So there's probably going to be some chance to be fluid. With regards to the legal aspect of all of this, is that you guys as a board, I mean, there's certainly debate and there's a pending lawsuit about it, but right now the public health orders are law. The Mexico Supreme Court has already mandated that anything that's coming out of the Department of Health as a public health order is the law, and there is no deviation from it. With regards to the PED and how that works, is that there is a debate as to whether the PED has the authority to make these decisions on behalf of local school boards, but that's pending in court in another case. But what is still very much a reality is, if you do not follow the PED recommendations / mandates / regulations, the PED will remove you. That's exactly what happened with the Floyd Municipal Schools. Is if you don't follow their toolkit, they will remove you, and they will leave it to another day, another year, of court battles to figure out whether they could have done it or not done it in the first place. So unfortunately, that's just the truth that appear right now with regards to it. Since the PED removed that particular school board, I don't see them having any ability to make exceptions for anybody else. So I would think that if they come back to you and say, this is what we have in our toolkit, this is what you will follow, this is what you will do, and if you don't do it, I believe you'll get a warning letter, and then they'll just remove you. And the thing about it is that they remove the entire board, whether you were supportive or not supportive of the mitigation efforts in the first place. So the legal aspect of all of this is still quite non-discretionary. You must comply with public health orders. And number two, under threat, at least if you have that, if that's your opinion about the PED authorities, then under threat, you got to follow the PED toolkit with regards to mitigation efforts. If you believe that the PED does have the authority, then they have plenary authority over public schools, and therefore they can mandate it. So I really wish there was a lot of room for you guys to navigate this in terms of discretion, but it doesn't. The discretion goes up, it doesn't go down. You have to at least meet the requirements of the PED and the public health orders. If you guys feel that for your community, additional mitigation efforts are required, then you can adopt them and approve them, and you have to do it by board. Again, I wish it would be as simple as saying, whenever the CDC changes, we change, but that's not necessarily the truth. Again, the public health orders have in time been different than the CDC guidelines. So the real trigger for changing yours is going to be both the public health order, any changes in there, and number two would be what the PED is mandating, is it in its toolkit, whether under threat or under authority. Any questions for me?
Board members.
So as it stands now, the New Mexico PED and the Department of Health are recommending wearing masks outdoors, but they're not requiring masks outdoors. Is that correct?
I think right now, depending on how they adopt the CDC guidelines, or if they incorporate any of them in there, then it would be if you're outdoors, you don't have to wear a mask. Now, what I was bringing up is the issue that might possibly come up is that if they do adopt the CDC 5-day out of quarantine, that is 5 days you can come back to school, work, wherever. But the additional 5 days you have to wear a mask when within 6 feet or 3 feet of somebody. So that might be what the board president was saying. You don't have to wear a mask outside, except if you're having to follow, if it's adopted. I don't know if it's going to be adopted, but if it's adopted, you might have to wear a mask if you're within a certain radius of somebody, because you're still doing your 5 days part of the quarantine part.
I say we cross that bridge when we get to it.
Absolutely. At this point, it could change. The PED may adopt it. The PED may not adopt. More importantly, the health department may adopt it or may not adopt it. I mean, they may modify it. Just because the CDC says this is what we would like, doesn't mean the health department has to do it.
I believe at the time that we approved this manual last time, the outdoor masking was not required, but at that time we had chosen to go above and beyond just to validate Richard Jones' point, is that that was an area where I believe we could have not required the masks outdoors at that time. But at the September 21st, at that point in our evolution, we all were, at least we were in some agreement that that was the best thing to do at that time. But it was, I think we did have the ability to do what we're proposing tonight at that time. And I believe that was your point, Mr. Jones.
Correct.
No, Mr. Jones.
I mean, the way I understand it, we have a good grasp of what the PED is requiring of us, correct? I mean, it's there right now, there's no gray area. I know there's some lag on when it comes out to when we institute it. And Andy, thanks for the clarification on the CDC and the PED. I thought they were following the national guidelines right to the letter. So thanks for the update there. But I mean, like the mass outdoors, that's been something that's already passed, and we have knowledge of that they don't have to wear mask outdoors. We just need to change it in our realm to match what the PED has.
When the PED changes, I think when they showed you your PowerPoint, I think Mr. Lee was showing you what was coming out of the toolkit that was active at the time. Now, if they change the toolkit, that will change according to what the PED wants to adopt, whether it be directly from the CDC. My understanding is the PED is supposed to be working hand in glove with the health department and setting these requirements. So we'll have to see what the public health department says about doing that in light of the reduction of, it's supposed to be the quarantine has been reduced to 5 days, but you still do additional 5 days with a mask.
No, I understand that, but what Mr. Lee showed us in the toolkit is a bit ambiguous, and the way I understand it is we're trying to just clarify that, correct? I'm talking about masking outside.
Yeah, I think the PD wanted to give you guys some discretion.
Thank you. That's all. Yes, that's all I'm at.
Let's continue this discussion when we get to any motions. We have potentially 3, I think. And if there are no other questions or any other final points, we will ask Mr. Sanchez to remain with us on the action items relevant to the COVID amendments possible. Mr. Perez, let us move on to the next agenda item.
Mr. President, Board, the next item is based on a proposal that we want to bring to the board in keeping up with the minimum wage changes throughout the state. We all know that there is a lot going on with the minimum wage. There's a lot going on with labor in general. And our effort in this process is to keep a step ahead, at least keeping the fight to remain competitive with attracting employees and keeping employees with the school district. As we talked over the last couple of years, it was always our intention to stay a step ahead of the state minimum requirements by at least $1. Now, as that rapidly changes, we once again are looking at continuing to be a step ahead of what the state is proposing. We believe that will keep us in the competition and keep us at least in the pack of attracting, acquiring, and retaining employees. So what we have this evening is we want to make you aware of the proposed minimum wage adjustments that we are working on. And we present this with the intention of bringing it forth as an action item, probably at the next board meeting, to get the approval so we can move forward on this. Now, I'd like everybody to know that we do keep in mind the sustainability of this. We know that we have received a lot of funds through ESSER and ARP and all of the COVID related funding. We are very aware that that money is coming and going, and there will be a funding cliff. So whatever we do, we're very aware that these things that we're proposing in this particular case is something that's going to have to be sustained beyond this funding that we're receiving now. So a lot of thought and effort is going into this, and Mr. Maldonado will share with you. There's also a problem whenever you make increases across the board in salary wage matrices. It always creates a compression, and I believe Mr. Maldonado will share some of that information with you. So, Mr. President, would like to ask Mr. Maldonado to share our thoughts with you.
Thank you, Mr. Perez, Mr. President, board members. I'm going to share my screen and just walk you through some overview of what we're proposing here. So if you can see my screen, that should say additional information regarding this proposal. So what we are proposing is currently our minimum hourly wage for classified hourly employees is $12 per hour. We put that in place last July 1, which was a year and a half, excuse me, yeah, and which was ahead of the minimum wage that the state is doing. So we went from $10.50 to $12, and then the minimum wage now, as of the other day, January 1, went to $11.50. So we are 50 cents ahead of the minimum wage in terms of what the New Mexico minimum wage is offering. So that's all well and good. And what we're experiencing, though, is severe competition from even fast food restaurants that are now offering $15 per hour, just other places that our HR department is as much effort as they put into recruiting and retaining, they still face some challenges. And so this proposal would take the classified individuals, and you can see on this matrix here, this affects 246 employees out of our 540 employees that are currently employed. So right now, those employees who are earning $12 an hour, who are at the minimum, are earning, there's 15 of those employees. And then there are 87 employees who are earning between $12 and $13 an hour. So our proposal to migrate to $16 an hour in the first quarter of this year, even do a mid-year adjustment, would significantly change the salary schedule and provide a significant investment in our employees who are at the bottom of that tier or are just above that. So that means our minimum would be at 16, but then everything else in the matrix and the salary schedule also shifts to the right. And so we improve the salary, the hourly wage for every single employee, or most employees, I should say, based on that minimum wage. So what we need to do is to examine that salary schedule. Once we get approval from the board and from the PED to implement this, then we would need to develop our salary schedule and funding for the next budget year coming up in July. But right now, what we want to do is provide a significant boost for those employees, to get them where they need to be in terms of a living wage job and working with the district and attracting new employees, but also retaining those employees, because it's very expensive to replace an employee rather than to retain them. So out of those 246 employees, as Mr. Perez mentioned, the moment you start moving things to the right, you get those long-term employees who are at the top of the salary schedule and who, regardless of how you move that salary schedule, never get that increase. Okay, that's still happening now. It's called compression. And there are 6 employees in this group of 246 who would experience, even though if we made this adjustment, they wouldn't get an increase. So we took the average of the increases in the categories, and I'll show you that spreadsheet in a moment. And that average came out to $2,454. So what we're doing is we're suggesting and proposing an equalization stipend for those 6 employees who would get a one-time equalization stipend equal to what they probably would have gotten had they been eligible for a raise in that year. So the number of employees out of the operations fund, the 11,000 fund, out of that 246 employees, there's 136 of those employees. Out of the 13,000 fund, the transportation fund, there are 26. And then out of the food service fund, 21,000, there's 29 employees. And then combined from all the other employees that are paying out of federal funds, there are 55. So that's an overview of how this would affect those employees. So I'm going to bring up the, any questions about that before I bring up the spreadsheet?
Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, Mr. Maldonado, I appreciate that. And just some clarification. I think we're in the right direction. I do want to start paying these guys people what they're worth. But you talk about, all right, this is the way I look at it. So say you started with our district 15 years ago at $8 an hour, and you've worked your butt off, and you've come to work early, and you've hustled, and now you're at $16 an hour. Now we're going to make everybody at 16. Am I in the understanding we're taking the right step process for those others that have been here that are at 15 or 16 now, that they're going to be compensated at the same step as the rest of the employees? I mean, I think we need some equity there. And
yeah,
did I understand there's a stipend there, but only a one-time stipend? So this time next year, they're not getting what they're worth. They go back to original. Just some clarification on that.
Absolutely. No, great question, Mr. Jones. So the compression, as Ms. Salazar enters into negotiations with the union, when we have to present, of course, our new salary schedule for next year, right? We're looking to adjust those salaries accordingly, the hourly wages, and because these employees who suffer compression or who experience compression, it's a long-term thing, as you mentioned. It took a long time to get to that point, and it will take more than just 1 year to get out of it. So the moment you begin to shift things to the right, it may affect other employees who now face that compression, and the employees who were under that compression may fall off of that and then get the regular increase. So it's going to change over the course of, I would estimate, probably 2 to 3 years. I think as Ms. Salazar and I begin to examine where things are, we understand that it's not a 1-year fix. It's not a 6-year fix. It's a longer term identification and maybe even a simplification of the steps in order to keep people moving and keep them motivated and give them the raises that we could afford and that they earn. All right. So let me give you an example. Did that answer your question, Mr. Jones?
It did a little, as long as yes, it did. I just want to make sure that the compression doesn't hurt them so bad that we lose morale, I'll just give it to you straight. I think some of our people are grossly underpaid, and thank goodness we're finally getting to where they deserve. But the ones that have put their time in, I don't want to neglect their step, as long as we're making those right. And I understand compression, I understand sliding to the right, but I just want to make it as far down the road as we can. How's that?
There you go. Yes, I completely understand, and I think that we're right with you on that in terms of our intention and looking at what ability we have to continue to provide incentive pay for these employees. Okay, and just to let you know that there is a House bill that is proposed, at least they're talking about, that came up last session, that is now being talked about again, about moving the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So whatever the minimum wage is changed legislatively, the PED is going to have to fund it. Okay, so they're going to have to fund it through the operations money through the SEG that we get, the state equalization guarantee. So we're not without understanding that in terms of sustainability, like next year, we're going to have to build this into the operations budget, for example, right? We're going to have to change the budgets for transportation, food service, and we're going to have to make it work in order for us to make this adjustment. But I think that the tone of what the executive team and what Mr. Perez's intention has been when he asked for this, for us to look at this, is we need to do something to make this righter maybe, and to give us some room to operate and to recruit qualified and keep qualified individuals. So that's why we're doing this. It may be some pain in the first couple of years, but as we begin to move this along, then we can start looking at everything from how we staff to where we staff and how we pay for it. So here's an example in this worksheet.
Maldonado, I'm
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, of course.
Mr.
Go ahead.
President,
Mr. Sanchez.
just as a point, this stipend, I do not know the specifics of it, but you can't do it retro.
Correct.
So it's going to have to be something that's prospective, and you're going to need to get something for it. So whether it's a guarantee that they'll sign another notice of intent to rehire or whatever, there needs to be something connected with the stipend. Also, if you guys go to the bargaining table, you're going to have some MOU or something to understand that that is a one-time deal, and that doesn't end up as the new bottom of your salary schedule when you are negotiating with the union. Just pointing that out as an observer.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Very good point. I'm going to share that makes me want to go to this next part and share a little bit about the process. So it's not an overnight deal, as Mr. Sanchez pointed out, right? So there's many pieces that need to be connected together. And so the very first piece is to gain approval from the school board to ask the PED for a mid-year wage increase, determining when it occurs, right? So obviously not this month, but so we might be looking now at February, all right? And then we'll just adjust the dollar amounts February in that time frame. Ms. Salazar has already been keeping abreast of the requirements with the bargaining unit in order to implement this, knowing that when we go back to the bargaining table for the next year's, whenever the next salary schedule needs to be come up, that there is, all things are on the table there. So, but in terms of process, we need to first ask the school board to say, yes, we want to ask the PED for this, right? Then once we ask the PED, we have to submit a number of items to the PED requesting that. They want to know where the funding sources are, all of that. And then we have to submit the new salary schedule for the current year, whatever adjustment we make in that, and then submit those funding sources. And then of course, go to the union to get that MOE in order to implement that. So that could take some time, but we still want to press forward with that because we think it's a good idea. We think it's something that has merit, and we think that it's worth the effort in order for us to continue this relationship with our employees and providing for them the way we think we should. So that's the process.
Mr. Sanchez, you still there? Andy Sanchez.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Perez. What I think we need to do is to be clear on the cautionary note that Mr. Sanchez has inserted into our possible implementation of a wage increase. Therefore, I think that there's a need to ensure that we have a legal review as to what it is that we're trying to do before we seek approval from the board. So when we get to having the board deal with this again at the next board meeting, possibly, that we would have that kind of legal scrutiny of our interests in revising the wage adjustments.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ashambo. And I think we're still in that, in the midst of the work where we want to, I understand the legal aspect of, not, giving some money for no return on the investment. So
Gift of public funds.
the anti-donation clause, we're aware of that. But we want to work it so that it is injected as a part of the whole salary schedule and not just providing a stipend for just because we want to bring fairness to it. But we want to work it, and I think we can accomplish that so that it can be fair across the board. And it may be something that evolves a person or weans a person out of that cell or out of that compression. So there's still some work that needs to be done there, and we probably will need some legal advice to make sure that we're not crossing that line.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question if I can. And I don't know how this is going to come out.
Board Member Ortiz, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Thank
But
you.
if I was an employee, one of those 6, I wouldn't be happy. Because the one-time stipend is not going to cover the years as you go. And everybody's going to go to $16 and I'm for it. Why can't we take these 6 people to another level? That's the question I have. Let's say it's $4. Why can't we take these guys that are making $16 now? Why can't you take them to $20 an hour?
So, Mr. Ortiz, that's a great question. We can model that. And just to be clear, when we pay a stipend, it's never in advance of anything, just like when we pay coaches stipends or anything else that we do. It's always earned first and then we pay it. That's why we break it up into 2 or 3 payments throughout the year. So we would follow that same model, making sure that the stipend is earned rather than paid in advance. So we would never, ever just write a check for the entire amount and say, here you go, please stay with us, right? That's a little bit different than a retention stipend, which is an incentive. But here it's a stipend. Again, when you make salary adjustment corrections in a salary schedule that have been building up for years, it takes more than 1 year in order to fix that as we begin to move that. So there are a number of different remedies that we can propose and negotiate with the union over the next 2 to 3 years that will eventually, Mr. Ortiz, get people to that place where we don't have to provide those sort of mitigation stipends where they actually do earn that. And so, but this is not intended to make that a total correction in the salary schedule or the salary amounts. It's meant to help begin to bridge that gap and stair step us up into a different plateau in terms of salary and hourly wages. So it's going to take some time. And as Mr. Perez says, it's going to be a very thoughtful, organized process where we're making sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's to make sure that this can be done. It's not unheard of. There are other school districts that are doing this as well, even as we speak. So our idea is not new. Our idea is probably just better, but it's not new in terms of doing this. But again, stair-stepping us to a place where we have become where we can become a lot more competitive and a lot more enhances our capability to retain employees. So there's that. Mr. President, did you want me to go through that spreadsheet briefly, or do you want to just skip that, or what would you like to do?
That spreadsheet's quite complex, right?
Well, I've summarized it. I've summarized a lot of it for you.
Let's take a peek at it.
Okay. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but what we did was compare by role and which account that they're in, okay, which fund they're paid from, what their hourly rate is now, what their proposed hourly rate would go to, right? The difference, and then how much that increase would cost the employer, us, throughout that first 6 months. And as we begin to, if we go into February and March, of course, that number goes down, right? But so I'm just going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the spreadsheet here and give you the nitty gritty of it. So it would take, so here we would have all funds combined, the average change, excuse me, this is, let me just get up and freeze that pane just one moment here. All right. So if we go down to each of these different funds, you could see here that the difference in the gross pay here, the average is $4,800 per year. From January through June for 6 months would be about $2,431, which is a 23% change. And of course, with taxes and everything else that the employer has to pay, there is that increase. So the increased cost to us for the first 6 months for this category would be $405,000. If we go down to transportation, the increase in cost to the district would be for 6 months, $47,000 for these employees. They would get an average change of $2,900 gross per year, but in that first 6 months, it would be about $1,496. Go back down to the cooks and the food service. That would cost us an additional $91,000 for the first 6 months. And as we continue to go down each of these brown lines that you see for each of the federal funds, these we've aggregated that. And then when you go all the way down to the very bottom, this is the number we're looking at right here, the $655,000 in terms of the increased cost to the employer for 6 months if we implemented this and got permission to do it, right? But this is just a summary of this. So I think the intent here for today is to begin to just share this information, make sure that we solicit feedback and questions, which I've been capturing and writing down, to make sure that we ask all those questions. And then whenever Mr. Perez and Dr. Guy decide to put this back on the agenda, we'll have all the information ahead of time, those questions answered, and we'll be able to model other things such as what Mr. Ortiz has asked for. We'll be able to come back so that you can make a more informed and intelligent decision.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Seeing none, Mr. Perez, are we finished with this item?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Very good, Mr. Maldonado. Quite impressive. Action items. We got 4. First one is the protocols. Second one is on replacement buses, and I'm curious about that for a couple of reasons. The next one is band equipment, and then IPP. Let's proceed to the first one. We have 3. We have some, based upon the discussions we heard in the presentations, we have 3 possible amendments to the GCCS enhanced COVID protocols that would require a motion in the second, plus any debate that we would have with respect to those. So and the first one has to do with the test to stay program. Is there a board member who wishes to make a motion with respect to the test to stay recommendation of the administration?
So am I to understand we're going to have 3 different action items?
Yeah. For now. First one is on the, what I would suggest would be on the test to stay. would you prefer to have the superintendent restate their recommendation?
Well, we need a recommendation before that's my, I mean, we need to stick with the agenda, and you can break them up, I think, but it has to come on superintendent's recommendation before a motion's made. You understand?
I understand what you're saying. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board. My recommendation is that we consider approving to amend the GCCS enhanced COVID protocols to include the test to stay items that we've presented, to make the outdoor masks not required, and to eliminate the verbiage on the Laguna Acoma High School section of the manual.
So I make a motion.
Richard,
that-
would you
Go ahead.
proceed? Apologize for interrupting you.
Oh.
Why don't you go ahead?
So I will make a motion that we amend our toolkit with said adjustments.
The 3 adjustments.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion has been made by Richard Jones and seconded by Board Member Lundstrom that we approve the the recommended amendments to the district protocol, which includes the test to stay, the unmasking outside, and the Laguna game. Restate it for me. How does it say? The what is that one about Laguna?
It's the Laguna Acoma High School changes about, I don't recall the page, I don't have it in front of me, let's see. The section on
So
page
that they can have
19,
home games.
yes, where there's no home games, it'll be played at Laguna Acoma campus, that has changed.
I just want to make sure that we're clear on what it is that will be the actual motion when we quote it in the minutes.
Yes, so yes, sir, so just to be specific, it's the first bullet on page 19 of the athletics plan.
And that states.
It states no home games will be played at the Laguna Acoma campus.
Okay, so that means we're going to delete that.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct, Mr. Jones?
Yes, that is correct. So
thank you.
Yeah, we're striking that from that, amending the other, we're amending all of it. But that one is stricken from the record.
Okay.
The other two is an amendment, yes.
And you understand that, Board Member Lundstrom?
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there any, now that we have discussed, is there any debate on this? Any individuals wishing to further discuss in favor of the motion? Anybody who desires to oppose the motion, they can speak up now. Mr. Sanchez, do you understand what it is that we're doing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, is that within our purview?
Absolutely.
Seeing no other discussion, unless someone has some, I'll call for the vote.
Dr. Garashambo,
Yes?
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes, yes,
Richard Jones,
yes,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
The motion passes. Congratulations. Consideration of 2 new replacement buses. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I do recommend that we approve the purchase of 2 new replacement buses.
Mr. President, with your permission, I'll get off the call.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez, you stay in touch with the district on those, on the matter regarding the minimum wage.
Absolutely. We'll work with Mr. Pettis on that.
Thank you. And thank you for the rest of the your advice for us. We just appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Pettis, buses.
Yes, sir. So I recommend that we approve that. I have if we need a motion first. Mr. Maldonado is here available to speak on that?
Absolutely, sir. Yes.
Would you give us some detail on that before we seek a motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Board President and members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. Last year, we received an award letter from the Transportation Division to replace 2 of the route buses. And that award letter covers replacement. I couldn't tell you the model of it, but the 2 route buses to replace the aging buses that we have. The amount that Ms. Nodal got from a quote from Roberts Truck Center came out to $201,798.12, which we have submitted the bar asking for. We previously submitted the bar after we accepted the letter asking for the authority to purchase it. Now that we have the quote, we're asking the board to approve the purchase. It will take almost I'm going to say 8 months to maybe even a year to get both of these buses or so and get them equipped and put into service. So that's why we consider this time is of the essence. We really just want to begin to put these in motion. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let's get a motion. Is there a motion?
A motion to
We
approve.
have Daily so moved.
Go ahead, let her do it. I'll second it.
Okay, Emily Hunt Daily so moved. Emily Hunt Daily so moved.
And Board Member Ortiz?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the purchases of 2 new replacement buses as described. Any discussion? Pros, cons? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Dr. Garashambo,
Yes?
Emily Hunt Jones, I'm sorry, Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes. Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
C, consideration of approval to purchase band equipment for Grants High School. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I do recommend that we approve the purchase of band equipment for Grants High School in the amount of $218,952.08.
Do we need any elaboration on it?
I would be.
Mr. President, I'd like to know, did it fall under the guys to get, I know because specialized equipment, yes, but did it fall under that requirement about having to put it out on bid, Mr. Maldonado? No?
Thank you for that question. No, we did get it through a CES contract. And so it replaces, Mr. Perez, if I can go ahead, we're replacing significant amount of aging band equipment at Grants High School. We also are asking, just FYI, the band and music department at Laguna Acoma to get together a quote as well so that we can replace that band equipment and get them up to speed as well. But we are ready to go on this. That we didn't need to go out to bid on this because we did go do a state purchasing agreement or contract.
Any other questions?
Okay,
If not,
thank you.
let's proceed to a vote on
I
this.
make a motion, we purchase the band equipment.
Motion made by Richard Jones to purchase the band equipment. Second.
Emily Hunt Daly, second.
Motion has been seconded by Emily Hunt Daly. Discussion, pros, cons? Seeing none, Let's vote.
Dr. Garashambo,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Yes.
Aye.
Rich Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Thank you. D, thank you, Mr. Griner. I know you're there. Consideration of the Indian policies and procedures. Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I recommend that the board approve the Indian policies and procedures for the 2022, 2023 school year.
Is there a motion?
Emily Hunt Daily, so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion has been made by Emily Hunt Daly to approve the Indian policies and procedures for this coming school year. And the second was by Board Member Ron Ortiz. Debate, any discussions, pros, cons? Seeing none, call for the vote. Oh, Mr. Jones.
Just, how's it changed since the previous year?
Yeah, Mr. President, Mr. Jones, this has not, it didn't change the prior year and it has not changed this year,
Okay.
but I can inform you that we had several meetings with Acoma and Laguna. And we did go through each of these procedures and opened up for discussion, questions, agreement. And so we ended with, I believe that everybody involved agreed that we're going to leave the policies and procedures pretty much as they have been and remain.
This is the one the board approved last year, am I correct?
Yes, and Dr. Martin, I don't believe we made any changes to it. Do you recall?
There was just one minor adjustment. Just the what do you call this? The way it's stated. The only question that came up from the 4 meetings that we've had for the tip meeting was what activities the Native American students are involved with will the district report to the tribes about, and we just changed the verbiage to include all activities, educational activities that the Native American students are involved in. The district will report on, and that's basically the only one that's changed, sir.
Back to you, Mr. Jones.
Nope, thank you. That's plenty.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Dr. Garashambo,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Richard
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Rich Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Motion carries, motion passes. Let's proceed. Consent agenda.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I recommend that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
If there are
I
any,
make a motion we
if there are
approve.
any issues, if there are not, then a motion is in order.
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion has been made by Richard Jones to approve.
I'll
Is there a
second.
Second by Board Member Ron Ortiz. Is there a second? Any debate? Seeing none? Call for the vote.
Dr. Garashambo,
Yes?
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Richard
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Alicia Lundstrom,
Yes.
Ron Ortiz.
Yes.
Let's proceed.
Okay, Mr. President, Board, Superintendent report. Just want to report to you that I am interested in pursuing a lobbyist for the board to represent us at the next legislative session, 30-day session. Many districts our size and larger do have a lobbyist to go work for the district and gather information and spend lots of time there to make sure that we all not only collect information from all of the different aspects of and the complexities of the session, but also to promote our district and push for the things that will benefit the Grants Cibola County School District. I do have a person in mind, and I'm right now in the midst of getting the costs, and I will be bringing that to the board, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that, and I'd be glad to answer any questions as we proceed through that.
Board members? Seeing none.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Superintendent Pettis, just keep us informed of your possible candidates.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. President, let's continue, Mr. Superintendent, excuse me. Let's continue on announcements. Board members, you see the announcements. Are there any other announcements you need to add to this, but everybody else sees them? Reminder for those of you who are interested in attending any of the school board conferences this spring, please let the district know. Future agenda items. If you have an item that you wish to include at this point, you can identify it. Otherwise, communicate with me or Mr. Perez about future agenda items.
Mr. President, I do have one bringing back Mr. Jones' request about board comments. We usually have them at the end of the meeting, so maybe we should reconsider or talk about that in the next board meeting. Bring that back.
I understand. I hear what you're saying. Anything else? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
Motion made by Richard Jones to
Yeah, I
adjourn.
second it.
Seconded by Emily Ann Daly. Call for the vote. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. It was a long meeting, but welcome to the club. Board Member Lundstrom. Appreciate your
Thank you.
participation. And new
I've
board
been
members.
initiated.
Yes, did a good job. The meeting is ended. You may disconnect us.